So please also get the chanting book. It might help you with the simple chanting we do in the beginning. And one of the prints from the sutra we will do today. I hope we have enough for everybody, but do you have it in your iPad?
I do, so if you need
In case, just in case if you need. Yeah, that's the sutra we will discuss.
You will repeat the sutra?
Yes. And how is the screen?
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Please turn to page 3 while you are on it. Okay, we'll start. Please do the English part. Homage to him, the blessed one, the worthy one, the fully enlightened one. Homage to him, the blessed one, the worthy one, the fully enlightened one. Homage to him, the blessed one, the worthy one, the fully enlightened one. I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dhamma, I take refuge in the Sangha. For the second time, I take refuge in the Buddha. For the second time, I take refuge in the Dhamma. For the second time, I take refuge in the Sangha. For the third time, I take refuge in the Buddha. For the third time, I take refuge in the Dhamma. For the third time, I take refuge in the Sangha. I undertake the precept to abstain from harming living beings. I undertake the precept to abstain from taking what is not given. I undertake the precept to abstain from sexual misconduct. I undertake the precept to abstain from false speech. I undertake the precept to abstain from intoxicating drinks and drugs that lead to heedlessness. And please also prepare yourself for a few minutes of silence and contemplation. Closing your eyes, grounding yourself in the space here and now, keeping a gentle smile on your lips, inviting calmness, tranquility, good energy into your system. Please take a deep breath with that invitation. Releasing that breath and breathe in again. Breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out, mindfully and fully aware of the process of in-breath and out-breath. We have two birds living in the temple, so you hear them. You don't hear birds in the winter very much, so welcome the sounds that they are making. They want to join with us in this learning process. So let's see, how many are we here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So, yes,
Did everybody get?
please sacrifice yours to someone else.
Somebody not get,
I think everybody got that. You got?
you do not?
So the sutra we are discussing today is from this book. This is the long Discourses of the Buddha. And now this translation is from Maurice Walsh. I think he's English. And the sutra number is 32. You open page 471 of this book, you find number 32, the Āṭānāṭiya Sutta. And then they say the Āṭānāṭa protection verses. So Āṭānāṭa is a name of a town which is mentioned in the sutra. And when you, after reading it, you might wonder why is it there? That is the question that many purists, those who expect pure Buddhism, will have. But this is a protection for monks. And people in Sri Lanka listen to this throughout the year. They like it because when they feel some fears from evil spirits, they play this, an audio of it, or they invite monks and ask monks to chant this, thinking that the evil spirits will be dispelled off by the power of this chanting. And so this is a protective chanting, just like the Ratana Sutta, Dajagga Sutta, Mora Paritta, Khanda Paritta. So these are also popular protective chants. This is not only popular, not only found in popular Buddhism, but also enshrined in the canon, as you just saw in this book. So if you have any fears when you meditate in the forest, remember this by heart. That's the instruction found in the sutra. And because this was a present given to the Buddha by the King Vessavana. Vessavana is a heavenly Yakka king, very powerful, and he asked that the Buddha orders his monks to remember this by heart. And if their loving kindness is not strong enough, and they chant the discourse of loving kindness, they chant the Dajagga Sutra, they chant all the other sutras they know of. And if those are not enough, then they can pick this one and then chant. This then clears it off. And nowadays monks, of course they live in forest, but you all don't live in forest. But even in forest places, you might find, like when I was in Indonesia, I remember people talking about asuras. They said, an asura has possessed my house and please do a blessing chant. So the word asura is found even in Indonesian Buddhist culture. Even in Sri Lanka, I remember going to one place in Kandy, and this man who is not a Buddhist but was studying Pali from me in the university, and he came and said, my mother-in-law, she was a good person, she loved Buddhism, but she hasn't left the house after her death. It seems like she's still choosing to stay here, and we feel something about her. don't be scared hearing these stories this night, but people say these things, right? They, different times, they talk about low energies affecting them and things like that. When you move to a new house, you know, sometimes when you go there first, you want to feel the house. Sometimes people can tell when the house has good energy. Anyway, when I went there, it was dark in that house. Anyway, he says that when his friends come, he allows his friends to use the bed that the mother-in-law used. It's a small house, and they don't get any good sleep. They feel like someone is pushing them away from the mattress, and they never get good sleep, and they then prefer to sleep in the living room or somewhere else. So I did the chanting, and I was offered lunch there. And after that, I didn't do this one particularly. I did the Ratana Sutta, Mangala Sutta, and Karnimata Sutta. And that afternoon, he received a call from his daughter living in Singapore, and she said that for the first time after many years, after the death of the mother-in-law, she was able to eat a good meal. So maybe there was a connection with her eating and with the chanting. And anyways, he said over the phone also that he doesn't feel that anymore. And it never... So I asked her to go find a better place with the merits of offering a good meal to monks and seeing how well your son-in-law behaves and does these good things. And so I started praising her when I did the chanting. So he said it never affected the house afterwards. So people, many Buddhists, when they do anything auspicious, they invite monks and ask them to do a chanting. So the construction of a house or whatever they are starting will not be affected by bad spirits. Even when I go to a new place, whether it's a temple or forest place, I first chant the loving kindness, discourse of loving kindness. So to kind of be friends with whoever I don't see in that place. So that to tell them that I'm not here to harm you or take your place, but be happy I'm here. Or just know that I'm here temporarily, not going to take your place. So especially this is important when you decide to live in a forest. So these are tools that the Buddha tells monks to use. And then in Thai Buddhism, Thai monks chant this together with the first sermon of the Buddha, Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra, on January 1st, as a protective recital for people in that country. That's the Thai culture. Sri Lankans, when they have an overnight chanting, they chant this around 2 o'clock in the morning, and monks particularly make noise, pronounce some words really loud to keep people up. They say the word yakka, which is a demon. The meaning is demon. They say yakko to wake people up so that they stay up. So people then fear of playing this sutra at home too because of that. They think this will attract the demons to the house. And that is a misunderstanding. You will find out with the meaning that you learn today. So there is a Tibetan version of this and a Sanskrit version. And the Thai version, they say, according to the notes found in this book, it has, so this has names of 7 Buddhas in it, and Thai version has added 21 more into it. So it has all the 28 previous Buddhas in their version. Anyway, so let's start. You have the Pali in case you need to refer to the original words. We will start. Thus have I heard, at one time the Buddha was dwelling near Rajagaha, now they call it Rajgir, on the Vulture's Peak mountain. Then, so the Vulture's Peak, for Sinhalese speakers, this is Gijjakuta. Vultures lived there. I went to Pali. Then the 4 great kings, with a great army of yakhas, non-human spirits, really powerful, with a great army of gandharvas, so low-ranking heavenly spirits or celestial musicians, or those who are about to be born, they are also called gandharvas. With a great army of kumbhandas. So kumbhanda, the translation is dwarfish, those short, you know dwarfs in human lives, but these are spirits that are dwarf-like. With a great army of nagas, mythical serpents. They are heavenly beings, but they can take a shape of a serpent or a human being if they want to. That is their inclination. Having set up a protection over the 4 directions, so who set up the protection? The 4 great kings, because their duty is to protect the 4 directions. Just imagine the universe being protected by 4 great kings. So they made sure that the 4 directions are still protected when they left their places. Having set serried troops, I think that means lines of troops at the 4 directions, having set up a barricade at the 4 directions. At the end of the night, having lit up the whole of Vulture's Peak with their surpassing beauty. So when they came at night, the place where the Buddha lived, which is the place called Vulture's Peak, the Gijjakuta, there was this light because of the radiance of these mighty beings that came. Approached the Buddha, and after approaching and worshipping the Buddha, they sat down on one side. Then of those yakhas, the mighty demons, so of those, some, after worshipping the Buddha, sat down on one side. And some of them exchanged greetings with the Buddha, and after exchanging polite and courteous greetings, sat down on one side. And some of them, having raising their hands in respectful salutation to the Buddha, I think maybe they did this in salutation, and sat down on one side. Some, after announcing their name and family, sat down on one side, which is a way some humans did at that time too. Those that came to visit the Buddha said, I come from this clan, I belong to such parents, and I have done this and that. So they give this introduction. So the yakhas did the same. Some, while keeping silent, sat down on one side. Then, while sitting on one side, the great King Vessavana, this is, I think, perhaps a leader of those that came, said this to the Buddha. What did he say? There are, Reverend Sir, some high-ranking yakhas who are not pleased with you. I'm not using some words in the translation just to make it understandable to you. There are some high-ranking yakhas who are pleased with you. There are, Reverend Sir, some middle-ranking yakhas who are not pleased with you. There are, Reverend Sir, some middle ranking yakas who are pleased with you. There are some low ranking yakas who are not pleased with you, and there are low ranking yakas who are pleased with you. But majority of the yakas usually are not pleased with you. Why is that? Because, Reverend Sir, you preach about refraining from killing living beings. And you preach about refraining from taking what is not, what has not given. You preach about not stealing. And you preach about refraining from sexual misconduct, refraining from false speech, and taking wine, liquor, intoxicants, things that cause heedlessness. But many yakas, they do not refrain from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, false speech, drinking liquor. So to them, what you teach is neither dear nor appealing, which means whatever you teach, they don't like that teaching, because they like, doing such things. Now you might be wondering, how do these non-humans drink liquor? You may have seen some humans getting possessed by spirits. That is how spirits drink liquor. When possessed, these humans do all kinds of things. They do stealing, they do killings, and you wonder how on earth this man could kill a man like that. But then the only way possible is to imagine that maybe he was possessed by. This is the dialogue in Asian countries. Maybe he was possessed by an evil spirit. Although you do not hear such things here, but when a mass shooting or something like that has happened, the first thought that goes to my mind is that maybe he was possessed, that someone else controlled his mind. But people have all kinds of reasons when they kill. They even shoot at their mother, they don't care. They kill animals, they don't care. So because these spirits love doing bad things, they don't like the Buddha. And these spirits can live so many years, not just like how we live. In that state, they can live countless number of years. So some of them have seen the Buddha. They saw, but they didn't want to go there because they didn't want to change the way they lived. But anyway, this man, this heavenly king, Vessavana, wanted to say this to the Buddha. There are, Reverend Sir, disciples of you living in wilderness who are practicing in remote jungle-dwelling places where there is little sound, little noise, which have a lonely atmosphere because there are no people living, vijana vatani, lying hidden away from men, which are suitable for a seclusion. They want to live, stay as far away possible from human dwellings and monks, villages, and they go live in deep jungles. And there are high-ranking yakas settled in those places who are not pleased with what you teach. So if you want to please them, Reverend Sir, you should teach. Well, first you should learn this protection called Āṭānāṭiya. And you should learn this for the monks, nuns, and laymen and lay women's guard, protection, freedom from harm, and comfortable living. So you learn this and teach this to them, then they will be guarded, protected, freed from harm, and they will have a comfortable living. So the Buddha, keeping silent, gave consent, to what Vessavana is going to say. Then the great king, Vessavana, having understood the Blessed One's consent, that on that occasion recited this Āṭānāṭiya protection. So first he pays homage to 7 Buddhas, 7 previous Buddhas. He says, may you pay homage to the Buddha Vipassi, and the next one is Buddha Sikhi, Vesabhu, Kakusanda, Konagamana, Kassapa, Angirasa is a name for the Buddha Gautama, who is our Buddha in our time. So each of these Buddhas has some good quality that he praises. So Vipassi Buddha is the glorious visionary, the Buddha Sikhi who has pity on all beings, Vesabhu, the austere one, cleansed of corruptions, Kakusanda, who has crushed Mara's army. So Mara is the evil one. Evil one does evil things. The Buddha Konagama, the accomplished Brahmin, who has shed all defilements. So Buddhas and enlightened ones are called Brahmins by the Buddha himself, because at his time, at the time of the Buddha, Brahmin class was the high class, and the Buddha said, you become a Brahmin not by birth, you become one by being a good person and ending suffering and eradicating your defilements. So the Buddha placed Arahants, the enlightened monks, in the position of Brahmins. And Vessavana decided to call the Buddha Konagamana as an accomplished Brahmin who has shed all defilements, who has and had lived the holy life. And the Buddha Kassapa, who is free in every respect. And Buddha Angirasa, the glorious son of the Sakyans. Sakyans is the clan to which the Buddha Gautama, our Buddha, was born, who has preached this Dhamma. So Vessavana is acknowledging that you preached this Dhamma, that the Dhamma is dispelling all suffering. Those who are enlightened in the world, who have insight into things as they are. So this is praising all the Buddhas. Those Buddhas, I think, Tejana Apisuna. Well, or maybe because of what the Buddhas have taught, people are free from malicious speech and no, this is about Buddhas actually. So the demon is calling Buddhas as Jana, people, Buddha people, free from malicious speech, who are great and fully mature, and they will revere that Gautama, who is of benefit to gods and men. Anyway, but why is this confusing here? Who has understanding and good conduct, who is great and fully mature. So who is they here? Maybe Vessavana is addressing the following he came, the retinue he came with, and telling them to pay respect to Buddha Gautama. Well, they did pay respect already, right, in the beginning, that as we saw. Let me see the Pali. Angi rasasya namathu sakyaputta sasirimato yo imang dhammang adesesi sabadukha panudanam ye chapi nibhuta loke yatha bhutam vipassisum tejana apisuna mahantavit sarada hitan deva manusanam yang namassanti gotama vijjachanna sampannam mahantam vitasarada. So the last 2 lines are lines to praise the Buddha Gautama. So the people who are freed from malicious speech are the ones who show respect to the Buddha Gautama. So when the translator says they mean those people who show respect to the Buddha Gautama. And now he goes on to each 4 directions, and it gives strange descriptions about places which you will find very soon. So we will go straight into that. From where this is the east direction. East, from where the sun comes up. The sun is the son of Aditi, the great circle. While that one is coming up, the darkness of night comes to an end, which means when sun rises, darkness ends. And after the sun has come up, it is said to be the daytime. There is a deep lake in that place. There exists the ocean, deep and vast. So the lake, in other words, refers to the ocean itself. Thus, in that place, they know there is an ocean deep and vast. From here, that is the direction of east, as people say, that direction is washed over by a resplendent great king. He is the master of the Gandharvas. Again, Gandharvas are we met those in the beginning. The heavenly musicians or spirits who are about to be born. And also Āṭānāṭiyas as another category of spirit. Such is his name. The great king's name is Āṭānāṭiya. The protector of that direction is we in Sinhala say Dhritarashtra. That's the king that protects that direction, the east direction, and he's the master of Gandharvas. Okay? He delights in song and dance. We also delight in song and dance, right? He's honored by Gandharvas. He also has a great many sons. All of them has one name. So I have heard. There are 80 and 10 and 1, and I don't know why that numbering is there. Asiting dasa ekocha, 80, 10 and 1. And each of them has this name, Indra. Ones of great strength, they have great strength. They, having seen the Buddha, the kinsman of the sun, from afar, do reverence to him, who is great and fully mature. Reverence to you, excellent one. So this is how they show respect. The Gandharvas and the Dhritarashtra and all his folks show respect to the Buddha this way. Reverence to you, excellent one. Reverence to you, supreme one. You have looked on us with goodness. The non-human beings worship you. We have heard this repeatedly. Therefore, we should speak like this. You should worship the victor Gautama. We should worship the victor Gautama, who has understanding and good conduct. We should worship the Buddha Gautama. Now this part is repeated again with each direction. So they oftentimes hear that let's pay homage to the Buddha, let's pay homage to the Buddha in their celestial abodes. Because they hear that all the time, and they make a connection with the Buddha, saying that he is a kinsman of the sun, because they are somehow residing in the east direction where the sun rises. So they love the sun and they love to abide in that direction. So these are friendly celestial beings. As you saw in the beginning, some of them like the Buddha, and this is how they like the Buddha. And then there is south where hungry ghosts, petas, live. So the translator here used the word departed, those who are dead. but they are born as hungry ghosts because in their human lives they spoke malicious words, and they are backbiters, killers of creatures, hunters, thieves, and also fraudulent people. And now they are born as hungry ghosts. From here, that is the southern direction, as people say. That direction is watched over by a resplendent great king. And that king is the master of Kumbhandas. And his name is Virulha. The master's name is Virulha. That's another great king out of the 4 great kings. And he also delights in song and dance. He's honored by Kumbhandas. And we can skip that part because we just did that part in the beginning, in the previous one. So we will skip that part and go to the west direction on page 5. So the west is the place where the sun goes down. So the previous one is where the hungry ghosts dwell. With that, I think I had a note. So that it's called that direction south is because, and at least in one of the discourses, it says that the Buddha, after chanting the Āṭānāṭiya Sutta or another sutra, with his power, chased away, that may not be the right word, dispelled all the hungry ghosts out of that southern city gate in that city. So they could not enter the city afterwards because of the virtues of the Buddha. So that's why I think that direction is ascribed to the Petas, hungry ghosts. And those beings who do these bad things will be, destined to be born in that direction. You will be pulled into their abode. So don't do those bad things. So the west now we come. That place where the sun goes down, the son of Aditi is another name for the sun. The mandala, huge circle. While the sun is going down, the light of day comes to an end, and after the sun has gone down, it is said to be the night time, and there is a deep lake in that place, an ocean deep and vast. Thus in that place they know there is an ocean deep and vast. From here, that is the western direction, so the people declare, as people say it's west. And there abides this great king named Virupaka. He's the master of the Nagas. Naga is again the serpent celestial beings. And he delights in song and dance, and the same thing goes on. Let's move on to the next section, which is the direction of north on page 6. North was where the delightful Uttara Kuru, northern Kuru, is, where towers beautiful Mount Meru, a mythical mountain. The men who are born in that place are unselfish, without possessions. They don't own anything, no cell phones, no iPads or anything. They do not sow the seed. They don't have to do any agricultural farming. And nor are their plows led along. They don't have to do plowing. The rice that men enjoy, the use of there matures in untilled ground. So just rice grows. They don't have to do any work. Without husk, powder or chaff. I think that's the color that rice has. Pure, sweet smelling grains of the finest rice. Maybe this is talking about Mars, or part of Mars or some other planet. Having cooked it on hot rocks without smoke, they then enjoy their food. Having made their cows their vehicle, they go about from place to place. Having made their ox as the vehicle, they go about from place to place. Having made women as their vehicle. Don't worry about this. This is the thing in that planet. Go about from place to place. Having made men their vehicle, so men included, they go about from place to place. Having made girls their vehicle, very strange. They go about from place to place. Having made boys their vehicle, they go about from place to place. Maybe they don't feel any weight because they are celestial beings. They just hook onto one and start going. Their machines start. Having mounted their various carriages, messengers of that king go around in all directions. What king? Did we get a name? Not yet, right? Being furnished with elephant and horse and divine carriages, and for the great and resplendent king, there are places and palanquins, pasa, then civica. That's the word for palaces and palanquins. And there are cities for him also that are well built in the heavens, called Āṭānāṭa. See, one of the names of a heavenly city is Āṭānāṭa. That's how we get the name for this sutra. Not like Texas or any other city we find here. Kusinata, Parakusinata, Natapurya, Parakusitanata. To the north is Kapivanta, and on the other side is Janogha, and Navanavatiya, Ambaravatiya, and the king's capital named Alakamanda, very famous in Buddhist literature, really beautiful capital. As I have heard from literature, not from the heavenly king, the great king Kuvera's capital, that is the capital of Kuvera. And his name is Vessavana. So Kuvera's capital, so Kuvera is also the name he has. He's also named Vessavana. Therefore is the great king also called Vessavana. So Vessavana and Vessavana sounds similar, so he's talking about his palace, I think. These each individually inform the king. What are these? Tatola, Tattala, Tatotala, Ojasi, Tejasi, Tatojasi, Sura, Raja, Arita, Nemi. Don't know what these names refer to. I think these each individually inform. I think these are maybe, well, we'll continue and see if we find an answer to that. There is a lake in that place also named Dharani, and from there the clouds rain down. From there the rains spread. There also is the public hall named Bhagalavati, where the Yakhas assemble. It's a nice name to a place so they have a gathering place for business meetings. The trees are always in fruit and have a crowd of birds of diverse kinds, resounding with peacocks and hens, and also with the lovely cuckoos. There is the pheasant who calls out, "Live on," and the bird who calls out, "Lift up your spirits." There are the jungle fowl and golden cocks, and in the wood the lotus crane. There are the sounds of parrot and myna, also here, right? Sounds of parakeets. And birds who have young men's faces. Strange. Birds with such faces, mythical birds. So we didn't get an answer to that question. Like I think Ojasi, Tejasi, Tatojasi, that list refers to maybe names of different people who are informing about these places. I don't know. Kuvera's lotus pond is ever attractive all of the time. From here, that is the northern direction, as people say, that direction is watched over by a resplendent great king. He is the master of the yakas, Kuvera. Such is his name. He delights in song and dance. He is honored by yakas. He also has a great many sons, all of one with one name, as I have heard. So he's not talking about himself. He's talking about Kuvera. But earlier we found Kuvera and Vessavana. Also, as he's also called Vessavana. Maybe he's talking about himself, but this is how he wants monks to remember this teaching. When monks say it, they say it as this. There are 80 and 10, and Indra by name, ones of great strength, they having seen the awakened one. So that's how monks will later say it. From afar do revere, reverence him who is great and fully mature. Reverence to you, excellent one. Reverence to you, supreme one. You have looked on us with goodness. The non-human beings worship you. We have heard this repeatedly, therefore we should speak like this. You should worship the victor Gautama. We should worship the victor Gautama, who has understanding and good conduct. We should worship the victor Gautama. This, Venerable Sir, is the Āṭānāṭiya protection. For the monks, nuns, laymen, and laywomen's guard, protection, freedom from harm, and comfortable living. Whoever, dear Sir, be they monk or nun, or layman or laywoman, learn this Āṭānāṭiya protection well and will master it in its entirety, then if a non-human being, be they male yaka or female yaka or yaka boy, yaka girl or yaka minister, so they have those, or yaka counselor or yaka messenger, a male Gandhabba, female Gandhabba, Gandhabba boy, or Gandhabba girl, or Gandhabba minister, a Gandhabba counselor, Gandhabba messenger, or male Kumbhanda, the same list, male Naga. So please go to the last two lines. Naga counselor, Naga messenger with a wicked mind come near to any monk while they are going or standing near, while they are standing or if any one of these stand near them. This is strange. My father, he's a monk and he meditates in a forest. It's not a thick forest like this. It's a monastery. People bring food there. But before that, he lived in another really secluded place, and it's hard to get there. It's a mountain. He was the only one there at night, and he called me and he said, "I see this demon, and he's not harming me, but I see he's really huge, and he's looking at me, looking at the things I do." So he continued doing chantings so it stayed a couple of weeks. Didn't know the purpose of visiting that place. That's what he said. These are not stories, but this is what he told me. I don't know whether he made that up. I don't think he has any reason to. He has these strange encounters, which I don't have. So some monks may have fear when they see such things, and they will run, they will go mad, they may not want to live in places, but then you remember this. You can use this as a tool, and with loving kindness you will chant this. So if any of these spirits sit near you while you are sitting, or lie near you while you are lying, then that non-human being, dear Venerable, will not be received in my villages and towns. any honor or any respect. If any one of these spirits come and harm your students, but if these students remember this, but those spirits then will not be welcomed in our heavenly towns. That non-human being would not receive in my royal city Alakamanda ground or dwelling. That non-human being would not be able to go to the gathering of the demons. Furthermore, these non-human beings would not give or take him in marriage. So they had marriages. Further, these non-human beings would abuse him with very personal abuse. Will say bad things to, will not be welcomed. These non-human beings would drop an empty ball over his head. Non-human beings would split his head into 7 pieces. So those that like the Buddha will cause harm to these beings. There are non-human beings, dear sir, who are fierce, cruel, and violent. They do not take notice of great kings. They do not take notice of great kings' men. They do not take notice of the great king's men's men. So Maharaja is the great king. And those non-human beings, dear sir, are said to be in revolt against the great kings. Just as, dear sir, there are thieves in the king of Magadha's reign who do not take notice of the king Magadha, who do not take notice of King Magadha's men. So just like these thieves living in any town, there are such people, such demons also living in demon realms. So let's skip that part. So go to about the 6th line. Now, dear sir, whatever non-human beings, be they are male yakas, female yakas, or yaka boy, and you can continue skipping again, or Naga counselor, Naga messenger toward the end, with a wicked mind should come near a monk, or a nun, or a layman, or a laywoman. So, what's the meaning of a nun? I hear people say female monks. So the meaning of nun is a Buddhist nun. So we have those too in Buddhist countries, and some nuns also live here. You don't have to call them female monks. You can call them Buddhist nuns. Well, people just don't know. That's why they say this. So if any of these spirits come near them and cause any harm, let's turn to page 11. And okay, the last few lines of page 10 is important. The very last line. Then the monks should call out and cry out, saying, "This yaka has seized me, this yaka has grabbed me, this yaka annoys me, this yaka harasses me, this yaka hurts me, this yaka injures me, this yaka will not release me." To which yakas, great yakas, generals and great generals, like Indra, Soma, Varuna, Bharadwaja, Pajapati, Chandana, Kamasetta, Kinughandu, Nighandu, Panada, Opamanya, Matali, the god's charioteer, is he also yaka? Non-human being, of course. So any non-human being then can be called a yaka. The Gandharvas, Chitta and Sena, kings Nala and Janesabha, Satagira, Hemavata, Punnaka, Kharatiya, Gula, Sivaka and Muchalinda, Vessamitta, Yugandhara, Gopala and Suppagedha, Hiri, Netti and Mandya, Panchalachanda, Alavaka, he is a demon, popular in Buddhist culture. Pajjuna, another popular one. Sumana, Sumukha, Dadhimukha, Mani, Chara, Digha, together with Serisaka. Don't try to read these names, I'll help you with that. Then to these yakhas, great yakhas, generals and great generals, one should call out. So one should shout out, one should cry out. This yakha has seized me, this yakha has grabbed me, this yakha annoys me, harasses me, hurts me, injures me, will not release me, dear sir. So that's how they should seize. Well, they should scream or cry out for help. When these names are said, it seems like the kings or their followers will hear and will come running and chase away these demons, because they are not supposed to do anything like that for monks, because you have taught us good things and we are here to protect you. So now at the end of that he says, dear sir, this is the Āṭānāṭiya protection for the monks, nuns, lay persons, lay women, for their guard, protection, freedom from harm and comfortable living. And now, dear sir, we should go, as we have many duties and there is much which ought to be done. See the Pali in there. You should learn this. When you say I'm busy, you say Bahukicca mayam bahukaraniya. This is the Pali way of saying I'm busy. We have many duties, Bahukicca and Bahukaraniya, many things to do. So when you call me, say Bahukicca mayam bahukaraniya, I'm hanging out now. I will understand. So he said that. So having said this to the Buddha, we should go, he said. Now the Buddha says, if it is the time to go, you should go. That's how the Buddha responded. Then the four great kings rose from their seats and after worshipping and circumambulating the Buddha, vanished right there. Then some of them vanished after rising from their seats, and some worshipping and circumambulating, some exchanged greetings and then exchanged polite and courteous greetings and then vanished, and some after raising their hands and showing respectful salutation they left. So and some after announcing their name and family vanished, and some while keeping silent vanished right there, because they are heavenly beings, they just vanished. Then the Buddha, when that night had passed, addressed the monks, saying, monks, this night, monks, the four great kings visited me and told this whole thing. It's repeated again. And when monks chant this overnight with the other sutras, they chant again to repeat what the Buddha said to monks. But you have Dikta monks here for that. We have a limited time for this. And the Buddha said, learn this protection, monks, the Āṭānāṭiya protection. Master this protection, monks. Bear it in mind, monks. It is for your welfare and benefit, for the monks and nuns, laymen and laywomen, for your guard, protection, freedom from harm and comfortable living. The Buddha said this, and those monks were uplifted and greatly rejoiced in what was said by the Buddha. I'm not sure how many monks remember this. Honestly, I don't. I can chant with other monks when they chant. I can follow some places there. Fortunately, I don't live in a forest. In which case, I will have to remember this just in case for my protection. Anyway, so this gives you some insights into Buddhist culture and mythical beings and some names and if you decide to live in forests in the future as monks and nuns, you may remember this. Who knows, you may make that decision one day in your life that you want to live in forests in Sri Lanka or in Thailand, but the advice is to tell someone that you are going there, so someone knows, and you live close to a village, and make sure that area is safe, not affected by tigers or any elephants or any such animals. You cannot make sure that place is affected by non-humans because you don't see them. But you will find out when you cannot focus, when you cannot taste your food. Those are signs that something is affecting you. That's what happened in the story of the discourse of loving kindness that was taught by the Buddha to monks who abandoned the forest because they could not meditate. These monks could not digest any food. These spirits showed up and they tried to meditate. It scared the monks. Monks didn't say anything to other monks because they maintained silence throughout. But then they all looked pale and like skeletons. These monks were not healthy looking. So the head monk there decided to break silence and asked all the monks, found out monks are affected by spirits, and abandoned the forest, went to the Buddha, and the Buddha said, I'll give you a weapon of loving kindness. Go back to the same forest and make loving kindness as your protection and the object of your meditation, and you will be fine. So the monks did that, and the spirits started taking care of monks, and even went disguised into the village and prepared food and offered to the monks, and all the monks, about 500 of them, became enlightened at the end of the 3 months of rains. So at that time the Buddha maybe didn't know about this. The Yakka king, the demon king, didn't visit the Buddha by this time, so otherwise the Buddha would have taught this to the monks. But instead the Buddha taught the discourse of loving kindness. So it's nice to keep loving kindness in mind all the time. It's a way of practicing mindfulness of loving kindness. You're mindful of your loving energy. You radiate that to all beings. So anybody can have you as their enemy, but you aren't going to keep them as your enemy. You do your part. It's okay, whatever other people do, it's their business, but your business is to radiate loving kindness. Starting from that person, or including those people, including those who try to harm you and you sense that they have evil thoughts, evil intentions towards you. And that way, you don't hold any grudges against anyone, and you will be protected automatically with the power of loving kindness. Any questions? Or any fears and concerns at the end of this?
So are the yakas, the gandavas, the kumandas, and the nagas, are they necessarily menacing, or is it just sometimes they feel like being a menace? Or are they evil necessarily?
Some of them are evil and some are not, as we found out here. That some who like the Buddha are not evil, and others always seek quarreling, arguing, and doing bad things. And that's majority. The bad ones are the majority. So, yeah. The Pali word ye buhiyena means majority of them don't like it. That's what he said. Well, I think they don't like Jesus too, right? He taught good things. They don't like Muhammad. He taught good things. So they don't like monks because monks teach good things. They don't like you because you come to the Great Lakes Buddhist Vihara and you do good things and you teach good things. So not all. Now you know, right? Just remember the name Āṭānāṭiya in your life, not the entire teaching. Instead, have loving kindness as your protection, which then will protect you all the time. Any more questions? What's the time? 8:34. It's an auspicious time to end this discussion. So happy meditation at home. Thank you for coming. So next week, either Bhante Sankich or myself will teach another one of these. Come to our meditations on Wednesdays and make use of any of our programs when you can. Thank you.